Peter, are you ready to make history?
Yeah, well, it's not history for the Aussies, is it? They've been here and done the job before, so I'm ready, hopefully not to make a mug of myself or my horse.
How's she looking?
Looks super. Really pleased when I saw her here under saddle this morning. I thought it was the same horse I saw at home 7 or 8 days ago, so that was most important for me. I missed that crucial 3 or 4 days after she arrived, but the boys told me she's coped with it well, and I was very pleased with the horse I saw this morning.
Have your nerves been calmed now that you had here to see it for yourself?
Oh, definitely. It was always anxious, but it's good to step back a bit too. And you see them every day, and you can get a little bit blinded by how they're doing and how they look. But if you have that 7 or 8 days away from them, then view them again, I think it's gives you a more realistic view of what's happening.
What was that 7 or 8 days away like for you though? Were you on tenterhooks?
Oh no! Listen, I was in close contact with the boys all the time, but we've got a big team of horses at home too, and we've got to get the job done there. And I had to put back my departure probably a day or two with a few things at home. So I'd be lying if I said I wasn't quite anxious to speak to Tony and Pat each day and see how she was doing. But I was pleased with the end result and what they were telling me.
Pete, you need another gallop prior to the race?
If she does as well over the weekend as she's done thus far, I think she will need a bit of work. I would think she'll just have a bit of pace work tomorrow, probably on the Alba Harthree, and then we might speak to the Jockey Club people with a view to maybe doing a little bit of work with her on the grass, maybe on Monday or Tuesday morning.
You still looking at the July Cup as well?
Yes, definitely, but the Diamond Jubilee has been our sole target race the whole way through, and if we get there and get the job done, we'll then reassess. The July Cup's a great race, but it's probably more a stallion-making race, and we've got to weigh up the fact that we've got a lot of other options for her also, and I'm going to sit down with the transport people in the next couple of days and look at all those options. I basically know what they are, but just to finalise whether there is value in her staying and running in the July Cup, or do we say if she gets the job done on next Saturday, is that enough?
How crucial has the stablemate saloon been to helping her settle in?
Oh, it's been tremendous. The people here have been unbelievably helpful in helping us settle in, and obviously in a big yard that's pretty vacant, it's good to have a few horses around, and he's become a pretty good mate for her.
And the track for race day, have you thought about that and how helpful or it may be for Black Caviar?
Oh, listen, no, we're not worried about it at this point in time. I think we'll start worrying on Saturday morning. We get a week's racing or 4 or 5 days racing on the track to view it and view how it may be running, and one thing that's out of our control is the weather, so it's no good worrying about it now.
If it is a soft track as expected though, will she handle that comfortably?
She's never raced on soft ground, but she's done a lot of her work and a lot of her trialling at home on soft ground and has coped with it well.
You've been here a few times before. How different is it coming this time?
Well, hopefully the difference will be the trip home, because it's been a long way home previously after getting beat. So we've never brought a horse this good. Facts and figures and time form and so on suggest to you that a horse has never travelled from our part of the world this good. So hopefully she can justify all her ratings and get the job done.
Pete, what about talk that the Queen wants to see her? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm sure she'll be there with a lot of other people on the Saturday. So, no, she was actually keen, I understand, to view her when she was in Australia last year, but she had to open a tram instead. so I'm knowing what a lover of racing she is, I'm sure I know what she would have rather have done, but hopefully she gets a chance to enjoy her like we have.
Will she get the chance to meet her privately before the race?
I'm not sure. There hasn't been any approaches, but I'm sure we could arrange something. She's a great lover of racing, and this is her meeting.
Pete, opposition, can you get a handle on your opponents for Saturday week?
Well, I'm struggling to get a name, let alone a handle on them, to be honest. I understand the French filly Moonlight Cloud will be there. Society Rock won the race last year, I presume would be there, and the others I'm not sure about. So that's certainly something we'll look at in the week leading to the race, but I think everyone's sort of struggling to put down on paper what may be there at this point in time. So I'm very respectful of what may turn up, and certainly intrigued to see what the final field will be.
The Ascot track and that uphill climb home, is that any concerns at all for you?
Well, it's a testing 1200, and that's the reason we ran her at 7 at home, to make sure she had that bit of grounding in her, and we're mindful she's had the 2 good 6 furlong runs at home before she came over. So I think she's the fittest she's ever been, so that won't be an excuse if she gets beat.
Peter, you're happy with her sort of coat-wise, and do you think that perhaps because the weather hasn't been so good here, that might have played into her favour a little bit?
Well, it's probably very similar to the conditions she's had at home for the last 6 or 8 weeks. Probably would have been a greater concern had she come over here and struck 25, 26 degrees, which I understand it was a few weeks back. This has probably enabled her to settle. The climate's nearly identical to what we're going through in Melbourne at the moment, so that's probably made her transition very easy.
Can you give us an idea of what the interest back home in Australia is like about her coming over here?
It's been massive. It's been unprecedented, I think. Everyone you speak to is going to be here. I don't think there's hope someone turns the lights off before they leave. There seems to be a massive Aussie contingent coming over, and no, looking forward to it. It's I think you'll see a lot of green and gold there come Saturday.
And we don't see horses having that kind of following all that often. So this following that she's got there, pretty extraordinary from our points of view.
Yeah, no, well, it's I can tell you from the fact of my own time and my own mobile and email, it's become a worldwide sort of odyssey. Interviews from all over the globe. She's created a hell of a lot of interest, and it's something that I've certainly never experienced, or our industry probably hasn't experienced at home. Like I've said at home time and time again, it's great to see racing promoted for all the right reasons about having a great horse. When you see racing leading the news or the newspapers and so on, it's usually about something untoward. So it's great to see us at the forefront in a positive note. She's been tremendous for the industry at home, and it seems like she's doing the same here.
And is that extra pressure for you and the team?
No, I don't think so. The pressure probably comes from people that aren't used to our industry or don't frequent our industry. Some of the questions we get asked, some of the requests, they come quite from left field from people that don't quite understand the industry and the horse. And, I understand and feel I've got an obligation to the industry to promote it through her, but at the same time, I think people have got to be very mindful that she is an athlete and she needs a downtime, and people get frustrated that they can't get access to her 24/7, but you've got to be very appreciative that she needs her rest and her recreation to be able to get the job done on race day.
But expectations really are very high after this long sequence, aren't they?
Oh, certainly, and it's continued to build, and in Australia it's built from probably about her 8th or 9th win. They've come up with different records that she's broken and new ground every time she's gone to the races. So the public expectation is built, and I think she's got this aura of invincibility about her. And, if she did happen to get beat, probably a lot of that interest would go away for that reason. But at the moment, she's building this phenomenal record, and it's getting non-racing folk interested in this horse.
She's putting her unbeaten record on the line halfway around the world. How big a decision was it for you to make, and what did to come over here?
Oh, listen, it's a big call. It was really sort of hit home late last week. I was talking to an American journalist, and he said, history suggests to you that all the great horses over a period of time haven't travelled. They've all done it on their own shores. He actually named Cigar as one of the good American horses that travelled to Dubai, but on the whole, probably the last 100 years, the great horses have all done it at home. They haven't travelled, so she's being a little bit of a groundbreaker in that way. And congratulations to the owners for, they're putting it on the line by bringing her here and putting her record, on the line. It's facts and figures tell you that any opposition in the world would struggle to measure up to her, but the fact is now she's 3/4 of the way around the world in unfamiliar territory. That is the risk.
Yeah. So, if she wins, what do you think that does to her reputation? Because she's massive in Australia, but worldwide, what do you think it does?
Well, it probably doesn't do a lot for her reputation. It's not going to add to her record. It's not going to say, the Diamond Jubilee has made her in any way, shape or form. I think it just gives her a chance to be showcased on an international stage where you get that sort of little bit of a cocoon atmosphere at home where everyone feels they're wrapped up in cotton wool and protected. She's stepping out of her comfort zone, and she's done that a couple of times at home, and we've done some unusual things with her at times, and she's come up trumps, so hopefully she can continue that mould here on Saturday.
In Australians have done very well at Royal Ascot. They've got a better record in the King's Stand. Why are you going for the Golden Jubilee rather than the King's Stand?
I thought she'd be better suited at the 6 furlongs. Any race at 5 furlongs, you run the risk if something goes wrong, you miss the kick, you get checked or held up or whatever, it's all over in a flash. Well, I thought the 6 furlongs, the tempo of the 6 furlong race up the straight at Royal Ascot would be better suited to her.
But is she aware of the interest and all the attention?
I think she's become very aware of it. Like the media contingent that follows her at home in Australia, has been similar to what you're seeing here today, and I think she's learned to realise she's pretty special, and she's learned to cope with it reasonably well. But at the same time, and just reiterating, very mindful that she's got to have a downtime as well.
Does she enjoy playing up to the crowds, do you think?
I think she has. She's learnt to handle it very well, and she's learnt to cope with people very well. And at the meetings in Australia post-race, they tend to let people have a bit of access to her, and different people come in and give her a pat and have photographs and that taken with her. Once the job's done, she's pretty laid back and relaxed about it all.
How about you? Are you used to it?
Yeah, well, I suppose I've learned to handle it like her. It's like I say, I feel that obligation to the industry to promote it, and particularly here in England with Royal Ascot and Nick and everyone, they've invited us over and made out, the trip very easy for us, and we feel an obligation to help promote the Royal Ascot meeting as we have done with all the race clubs at home. And once again, it can get a bit tiring and it can be a pain in the backside, but I'm pretty happy it's mine.
What's the difference between her environment here and there? Back home, what does she see when she goes out on the training grounds?
Oh, well, at home she's trained in the middle of Melbourne. The Caulfield track's right in the middle of the city, so obviously she doesn't get the rural environment that she takes in here, so it's probably a more relaxed environment, one would sense. But this filly's learnt to cope with most things that are put in front of her, so it hasn't worried her at all.
Does she have the wide open spaces of Newmarket Heath?
No, she has 2 to 3 lane roads surrounding every corner of the track.
What's really striking is how easily she's done it. So she's run up this sequence, but anyone, whether they were a racing fan or a non-racing fan, can see she sort of breezes to victory.
At home, she's made very good horses look second rate, and that's the thing about her. And she's broken a lot of horses' hearts, some of mine, some of her stable companions too, unfortunately. She's just got this unbelievable strength about her, and she just breaks horses' hearts within races. I think she's the first horse in digital timing at home that's ever broken 10 seconds for a furlong in a Group 1 sprint. It's just something we haven't seen. It's unheralded. We haven't seen it before.
And inevitably the cynics will say, well, she's won 21, but what about the opposition? So give us an idea. You say they're pretty decent. Well,
every race I think she's won at her last 15 or 16 starts, there's been a Group 1 winner in it. And there have been different horses on most occasions. There's been a few that have lined up against her a few times, but there have been different opposition from different form backgrounds, I suppose you would say. She's beaten other fillies, she's beaten colts, she's beaten geldings, she's beaten sprinters, she's beaten milers, she's beaten stayers that have lined up against her. She's beaten a great variety of horses, and she can only beat what's put up in front of her. I suppose it's a bit like your champion Frankel. He's beat the same ones the last 8 times, hasn't he? And his rating keeps going up. Hers doesn't. It's a bit odd, that.
What do you make of Frankel?
He's a champion. Great horse.
Just going back to the beginning, when you bought her as a yearling, didn't you? Was there a lightning bolt moment when you saw her?
It's easy to say now, but she was a striking individual. She was, as a yearling, she was built like a 4-year-old stallion. She always had an unbelievable strength and unbelievable presence about her. So I haven't seen another one. I hope I find one.
Pete, the folklore has it that you did go back and look at her 3 or 4 times, so there must have been something about her that...
Well, she was closely related to Magnus, who I brought over here previously. That was my initial attraction, but I was extremely taken with her as a yearling, and even though $200,000 now, or $210,000 I think we paid for her, sounds relatively cheap now, at the time for her pedigree it was, it was probably 3 or 4-fold what we should have paid for her, so I was determined to go home with her.
Did you see her as a weanling?
No, I didn't see her as a weanling, just as a yearling.
Are you also staggered to some degree that she's maintained this unbeaten sequence, if for no other reason than Murphy's Law? What can go wrong will go wrong.
Well, yeah, she's had a lot of issues and a lot of injuries and things along the way, but she's overcome most problems and just continued to build on. I think she's taught me a lot as a trainer and taught me a lot about patience, and I think that's enabled her to build this record where I've been fortunate enough where I've got a big successful team around me, as in horses and people at home, and it's enabled me to be patient with her, where if I didn't have that I might have been forced at times to push on when maybe I shouldn't have, and maybe she wouldn't have built this record.
Your racing manager yesterday was saying the track times she was in her training work are even more impressive than she's done on the track. You know, do you think how much more do you think there is in the tank if somebody can push her?
Well, it's hard to suggest that she could go faster than she has, but when she has been pressured at home and looked vulnerable, she's always found. And we've got a great sprinter at home called Haylist, who I think is clearly rated the second best sprinter in the world. And on occasions, he's put 4 or 5 lengths on her at the furlong pole, and she's not only picked him up, but she's beaten him by 3 or 4 ease down as well. So, someone from Australia wanting to know. This is Luke Nolan, the jockey.
We're not booking anybody. If you had to explain to somebody outside why she's so fast, what do you think makes her so good?
Well, I think her physical strength. She's got unbelievable strength about her, and length of stride is phenomenal. I've never measured it or weighed into the debate, but people that do study these things have suggested that I think compared to Haylist, who's the second highest rated sprinter in the world, I think it was measured that she took 9 strides per furlong and he took 11. So she doesn't have to go any faster than him. She can actually go a bit slower and still beat him.
You've seen her with her compression suit, which helps with her muscles?
Yeah, I think so. This is a bit of a new thing for us, the compression suit, but the fact that she lost 9 kilos in transit's been quite staggering. Most horses lose 20, 30, and even talking to Paul Massara here a couple of years ago with Alberta, I think she lost 40. So I think that's been, whether it's helped, it certainly hasn't hindered, but all the sporting people of the human variety these days all travel in these tights and compression suits to help and create blood flow. So I think she travelled in it comfortably, and the way she's arrived and settled in here and a minimal loss of body weight suggests that it's been an unbelievable help to her, I believe.
Pete, going to the races here is so different than Australia. Different situation, you put her in a stall and you leave her there for a few hours. Is that something you wanted to school her, or the way it works here is so different for her?
Well, the fact that she's travelled all over Australia and gone to different stables, she's travelled to Adelaide, Brisbane, Sydney, she's experienced that, so I don't see that as an issue, no.
Pete, you said that she looked the same horse to you as 7 or 8 days ago. There's absolutely no indicator that she's not that same horse?
No, I think we've been very pleased that everything seems very positive at the moment. Obviously we've got 8 days to go at this point in time, but if we're this happy next Friday, I think we're going in with absolutely no excuses.
And Pete, give us an idea of coming around the world, big Royal Ascot this year, Diamond Jubilee Stakes, the Queen, etc. How good would that be to come and enhance their reputation further by winning at Ascot?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't experienced it yet, so you're probably premature in asking me. Hopefully you can ask me the same question Sunday morning.
I'm sure you dreamt about it, though.
Dream about a lot of things. Probably can't mention some of them.
But how good would it be?
Listen, it'll be phenomenal. I've been here and seen how people have been moved by winning at this meeting. I've stated at home, Lee Friedman, one of our champion trainers at home, I saw how he was moved when Miss Andretti won this race. I've seen how your local trainers and jockeys and that are moved by winning at this meeting, so it must be something unbelievable to not only compete but to have a winner at this meeting. I just hope I get to feel the thrill of that win.
Peter, there was a lot of talk over here about running against Frankel, which never seemed likely to happen. Was it ever seriously considered in your discussions with the owners?
We spoke about it, but we're very parochial. We think we've got tremendous racing at home, and there's a lot of great options for her at home. I think the positives and negatives, the negatives certainly outweighed the positives on taking Frankel on. It would be great for the industry, but I'm a great believer in let's enjoy them for what they are. My filly will be lining up for, I think, her 7th run this season come Saturday. And she's travelled many thousands of miles, not only on the trip over here but in Australia before she got here. She would be racing on a foreign track over a foreign distance in Frankel's backyard, and he'd be lining up for probably about his 3rd run of the season. We're going to struggle to find equal footing for both horses, I think, so that would be very unfair, I would feel.
Sure. Obviously ratings are very subjective, and obviously people have different opinions. Well, she seems to have done a lot more on paper than maybe Frankel. Does it niggle you a bit that he's maybe regarded as a better horse in the rankings?
Oh, not really. Listen, he's an Entire and a very valuable horse and one hell of a horse, so I think you can take them with a grain of salt. At times I have a little giggle to myself about how they come up with these ratings, but they're smarter men than I. I didn't go past junior at school, so these blokes that work out these facts and figures, I'm not going to put up an argument against them. They'll outdo me, I think, every day of the week.
But you're doing something different bringing her here. Do you think Frankel should be doing something a little bit different? He's sort of staying at a mile at the moment. People are saying maybe he should run at different distances.
Well, I'm not going to tell Henry Cecil how to train Frankel, and I'm sure he's not going to weigh into telling me how to train Black Caviar. Both horses have built unbelievable records, and they can only beat what's put in front of them and get the job done. And he seems one hell of a horse. I certainly have admired him from afar, and I look forward to watching him run on Tuesday at Ascot, as I do look forward to watching her run on the Saturday. Probably not quite as much.
In the discussions with the owners, there must be some element of we come and we stamp her greatness if she does this.
Yeah, I suppose so. It'll be a bit of a crowning glory on a record that she has built. But, I think, and I've said it before, and I've had chats with some of the commentators on this part of the world, it's strange that we've got to travel 3/4 of the way around the world to race inferior opposition for inferior prize money than she can race at home to stamp her greatness. That doesn't make a lot of common sense to me. And like I said before, horses of her ilk don't usually go out of their comfort zone, so I think the owners are to be congratulated for bringing her here and risking her great record. And there's no doubt it's a massive risk for her to come this far to compete here. Really for very little gain. If she was an Entire, the gain would be phenomenal, but she's a mare and she could win 5 of these races, and it's not going to enhance her value one iota.
Is it right the owners were keen to come than you, Peter?
No, listen, I've been here and been beaten, so I always wanted to come home, and I think last year we spoke here and I suggested that hopefully in 12 months' time I could bring a far better horse that you've ever seen before. And I'd be lying if I said as we got closer I probably became a little negative on the idea. I wondered if it would all be worth it, but now I'm here, I can assure you that I'm very much looking forward to it.
You were saying that other champions in the past haven't travelled, such as, say, Zenyatta in America, and say Frankel probably isn't really looking to travel. Why do you think there's a need for her to travel and prove herself abroad that an American horse or an English horse wouldn't feel like what they had to do?
No, there is no need for her, I believe, to travel to prove her greatness, and but we're doing it. We're parochial Aussies. We roll up the sleeves and have a go.
And the fact that the Europeans seem to be dominating the Melbourne Cup in recent years, does that have anything to do with it?
No, not really. It's racing's becoming a smaller world every day. We've become very much a global industry, and in 10 or 20 years ago it'd be unheard of a horse like this travelling this far to compete here at Ascot. It's great for the industry. Whether your horses tend to go to North America and they come down for the Melbourne Cup, and the Aussies coming here, and it's meeting in the middle at Dubai and Hong Kong and so on. It's great for the sport. But I didn't feel in any way that she had to come here to prove her greatness. I think she's proved that time and time again, and for her to be internationally recognised as the highest rated sprinter ever in history, she's done that at home. And suggestions are, if they did ratings on what she's going to do or run against here next Saturday, it would probably take away from her current rating, which is odd. So I don't know. I'm just looking forward to it.
Have they done the maths, or have you done the maths to figure out how much prize money she's missed out on coming here? It's obvious when you look at that, this is not a money-driven thing.
No, it's not. Obviously, there is an attraction. There is some bonuses available to her through the Victorian Racing Club in Melbourne, winning the Patnack Stakes, and if she went away and won one of the Global Sprint Challenges. And then you've got the Global Sprint Challenge itself, which has been a great concept from an Australian perspective because we've got so many great Australian horses. And if she did come here and win on Saturday, then the opportunity would be for her to race at Hong Kong later in the season, which would, I think, put $1 million US bonus in front of her. We always bemuse ourselves in Australia where we breed sprint milers and all the prize money is generated for 10 furlong and above. I actually joked with Luca Kamani last night that Menegar's won 2/3 of her prize money this season in 5 or 6 races, then she's won in 21 races, which is quite staggering. So it's certainly not a money-driven exercise, but there is probably a little pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for her if she does get the job done.
She's priced up at 2-1 on, which is a lot bigger price than she's been studying in Australia. Do you think the British bookmakers have underestimated her?
I think they're probably mindful of the task that she's been set. She's got to travel so far and adapt to foreign surroundings. I would think that probably lends itself to the price somewhat.
Having seen her this morning, what can stop her now?
Hopefully nothing really. We just don't want anything untoward to happen. We want her to come through her work the next 3 or 4 days, and like I say, if we're standing here in 7 days' time as happy as we are today, we're looking forward to getting the job done.
Peter, did she make you spring out of bed, or did she just make you anxious when you go to bed?
I enjoy my bed. No, listen, I'm keen to get out and see her each day. I'd be lying if I didn't suggest that. But knowing she's in my backyard, it makes me easy to sleep at night. I'm happy that she's in my possession and no one else's.
You mentioned Hong Kong and the patinette. How long do you think she will go on racing, Peter?
I'd like to think she's got another season's racing in her, but I know we're nearer the end than the start. So I wouldn't hesitate to retire her post Saturday if I believe there was nothing else to offer. So I'm just going to let her guide me on that front.
But she could race on for another year, possibly.
Most definitely.
Would she ever come back to Royal Ascot again, do you think?
Never say never, but we haven't got there once yet, so we're not going to worry about the second time for a while.
How will you know where the finish line is?
I think she'll tell us pretty much. You get to know these horses pretty well, and get to learn about them, and I think she'll let us know pretty quickly if she's had enough, and hopefully I'm smart enough to see that in her before she goes to the races, and something something wrong doesn't happen. Yeah.
What will be the signal, do you think?
Just in their general demeanour, their will to be there, how they cope with their racing, how they cope with their training.
It was 12 months ago we first heard the words she was coming here at this press conference, actually, on the Thursday morning. How long before that statement was the idea of Ascot in everybody's mind?
Well, I've been mindful of finding a horse good enough to come and do the job since I came here, I think 4 or 5 years ago with Magnus, and realised what a long trip it was home after getting beat. So I've always wanted to find the right horse to get the job done, and I've known that she's the horse to do it. It's just a matter of if we were able to get her here, and I'm thankful that 12 months of work's come to fruition.
Well, I thought you had the right horse last year on his work. What have you learnt from all of that coming in with Black Caviar?
Touch wood, things don't go pear-shaped like that. No, we were very keen on Hinchinbrook's chances in the same race last year, but unfortunately he went slightly amiss on race eve. So, once again, if I didn't feel something was right with this filly, there's no way in the world I'll risk her. If you see her step out on Ascot here on Saturday week, she's going to be 110%.
It must be very different training on tracks here in Newmarket to your racecourse.
Circular track, yeah, most definitely. This is horse heaven. If horses don't walk out on this facility with a smile on their face every morning, they're pretty hard to please.
Is it hard to equate the amount of work you do at home with here, given the undulations and the different surfaces?
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll be very different for a first timer, but thankful I've had the experience of being here a few seasons with different horses and have been able to experience what's going on. But I think common sense is a wonderful thing. A lot of people don't use it at times, I know, but if you use a bit of common sense and weigh up, you know yourself walking up the hill, it's a bloody lot easier walking down it, and it's no different for the horses. It's a lot harder working up it than working on the flat.
Sir Henry told me yesterday he hasn't seen Black Caviar. He would like to. I'm sure if you opened the door, he'd be doing the same to go and have a cup of tea with him.
Might have to leave it up to Nick or Adrian to arrange a little phone call there, because I'd love to have a look at his horse too. And they tell me he's got a very good garden up there.
Hey, will this be front page news in Australia?
I'm not worried about leading into the race. I want it to be front page Sunday morning.
But I think that would be the level of interest it would be.
She's created a lot of interest. I'm not sure if you were aware, they've opened up the middle of Melbourne City the night of the race, so hopefully the weather's a bit kinder than it has been, because they're going to put her on the big screen in Federation Square, and looking forward to having a big crowd there and viewing her. So I think there'll be a lot of interested Australians tuning in. That's the ones that aren't going to be here in us.
What sort of events do they open up Federation Square for?
I think for your World Cup soccers and sporting grand finals and the like. So I don't think it's ever been open for a horse race before.